These YouTube videos are uncomfortable for me. I really want to do this and continue doing this, but I also don't want to get sucked up into this idea of trying to be perfect. It's really important to me to just continue to do things that I'm stoked on and excited about, and with the hopes of reaching other people like me who are just nerds about things and nerd out and borderline obsessed over things. So first I want to address the fact that one of my videos did really well, very unexpectedly well. And that was the video on the Fuji X-E1. Most views that I've ever gotten on any video in my lifetime on YouTube. And I got really excited about that. But you know, what I'm not going to do is play the algorithm game, and I'm not going to just cover things that I don't have an interest in. I love the Fuji X-E1. I loved it for the time that I used it. I quickly moved on to the Fuji X-T1 and then started exclusively shooting on film. Today, I'm really focused on old tech that I use on a regular basis. I'm gonna go through them each one by one and kind of show why I like them, how I use them, and how they've kind of worked their way into my daily practice, my daily life. I'm 41 years old, and I kind of remember the 80s, back when MTV used to play music videos. Definitely remember the 90s. Those were formative years for me, and the early aughts. So a lot of the tech that I use today reminds me of my childhood. My intention with kind of showing this old tech is just to kind of share my process, how I got there. I am going to exclude things that are kind of obvious, at least to me. I'm not going to show my vinyl collection. I have a ton of vinyl, and I'm not going to include any digital cameras. So sorry for the folks out there who know me through my X-E1 video. I'm just going to stick to stuff that I'm stoked on and things that really bring out my inner nerd. If you have been to my channel before, you know that these things are typically unscripted. If you haven't been to my channel before, welcome to the chaos that is my brain. So I'm gonna start with some cassette tech, starting with one of my favorite pieces, this Tascam 4-track. This is the Porta Studio 414 Mark II. I was gifted a 4-track by my father when I was really young, probably around 11 or 12, and I found my love and passion for creativity through a 4-track. Yeah, if I would have thought this through a little more, I could have demoed something that I had recorded recently, but yeah, here we are, unprepared and unscripted. That's how these things go. Another way that I've kind of worked this into my modern workflow is I'll start tracking on the 4-track, and then I will send that over to Logic and finish the song. And I do that for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is it gets me out of perfection mindset. Sometimes it's about limiting ourselves with the tools that we use to get out of our own heads. We kind of narrow our choices down, we get out of perfection mindset, and then we can kind of complicate it later in the digital process. So that is the 4-track Tascam recorder. This always sits on my workbench. It's just a alarm clock that has a tape player built into it. What do we got in there? I think we got some Roy Orbison. Anyway, we don't need to get a Roy Orbison copyright strike, but yeah, I love to keep around old Walkmans in tech like this. This is a realistic Walkman that has the ability to plug headphones into it, but also has a built-in speaker, which really comes in handy. Yeah, well, I don't know what I have in here, maybe a mixtape. I don't know the typical age group of people who watch my channel, but if you're my age, making mixtapes for one another was just a part of the culture. You know, that's how you told somebody you love them. It's like, hey, here's a collection of songs that I love that remind me of you. Yeah. Next, I'm going to talk about, kind of in the same lines, because it still uses a cassette tape, is this Sony Hi8 Handycam. This is something that is a recent purchase, but it is an exact replica of the camera that I owned as a kid. I remember saving up for this and spending many a summer skateboarding, getting into other shenanigans. The beauty of these Sony Hi8 cameras is they still run on these Sony NPF batteries, which I use a lot just in my filmmaking world. So this actually has a bigger battery than any of these cameras would have come with back in the day. So this actually gives me a pretty unlimited amount of battery power. Sony was pretty ahead of the game with the flip out screen. You can flip it out, you can see what you're doing. I could even record a little bit right now so y'all can see what this looks like. Yeah, so you can use the screen. The dad cam mode is like, you know, using the viewfinder, and, you know, this is maybe how dad would come record us skateboarding or a recital or something like that. So never really use it in dad cam mode when we had the flip out screen, and that was just the way to use it. And also just to be able to see yourself, and this is what that looks like. It's a vibe, you know, it's definitely low tech, but it's recording to a cassette tape. So I got to get the cassette tape onto the computer somehow if I'm going to share this digitally. So I kind of have a whole process where I convert the analog signal to a digital signal, run HDMI to my computer, and just screen capture it. And yeah, then you're good to go. Something that I do still have actually is my iPod Classic. It's kind of like a time capsule in and of itself. While I can still upload new music, this has just got music in it from 2012, maybe earlier, maybe 2008 or 9 is when I got this. So it's just kind of got music from that era. And yeah, then you're picking a song and you are off to the races. And it's just cool. It's cool. It's so cool to listen to your old music collection on something that of a time capsule. It's not until you kind of return back to an old medium of listening to music that you realize that music used to have a lot of dynamic. Not every song was completely squashed or evened out. There are standards and practices in streaming services, including YouTube, Spotify, all of them, where they level the music, meaning they take the dynamic range and they squash it, so the listening experience from song to song is more or less identical. So there's not large shifts in volume, but when you're listening to rock and roll on this thing, like Queens of the Stone Age or Slayer or Nirvana, it's the appropriate volume. And you realize when you're streaming these things through streaming sites, you just can't get it to the appropriate volume. It's so compressed that you don't really get a sense of the ear-rattling, chest-rattling volume that these things used to produce. This is a Polaroid camera. This is instant film. This was all the rage when I was growing up and is making quite the comeback. And this is just such a great way to capture memories. It's just a really cool... So the cartridges actually power the unit, which powers the flash. So this thing doesn't use batteries. So anytime you put a new cartridge in, the cartridge itself powers the camera. And that's for 600 films. I also kept the price tag on there just because I was very stoked to get this camera at a thrift store for, you guessed it, $6.99.
Wow.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is a very good camera to get for $6.99. I think it was even a red tag sale that day, so I got it for half off. This is great for capturing memories on the go. It's an instant film camera, so there is the benefit of being able to print your photos out immediately It has immediate vibes, really great for parties, great to take on trips. For the analog enthusiast that wants instant results, instant gratification, I would highly recommend an instant film camera, whether that's a Polaroid that you buy at a thrift store for $350, get something that shoots 600 film because they're still making that film. You can buy it at Target, at Walmart, Amazon, just something to bear in mind if you are choosing to go down the instant film route. This one is just a little bit more of a serious camera, and what I mean by that is it's got fully manual features. So I'm controlling every part of the exposure process, focusing the camera here. I am choosing the aperture here on the camera. This lens goes all the way down to a 2.8 and up to an f/22. I'm controlling the shutter speed here, so all the way down to bulb mode, which essentially will keep the shutter open as long as you'd like, but all the way up to 1000 shutter speed. And we also can choose the ISO through this mechanism here. We can turn on or off the light meter. We can check the battery, which is a nice feature. Load the film in the back here. This is just such a great camera, and I have film in here as well, which makes sense, but you know, just to kind of show you how this works. Probably f/2.8, 60th of a second. I can check with my light meter. Yeah, that's pretty good. And this is what that sounds like. Analog goodness. I just exposed a photo there. And yeah, this has just been my go-to sort of everyday carry in terms of a 35mm camera, which is just like a little bit more pro in terms of just all the functions being manual, and my go-to 35mm camera. And that brings us to our last item, which is the Mamiya 645. This is a medium format camera, and this has got a waist level viewfinder on it. Pops up there. Focusing happens here. We choose the shutter speed over here. It's not 35mm film, it's 120 film. So the 120 film gives us a much larger negative. Different medium format cameras shoot at different aspect ratios. So you got a 6.45, you got a 6x6, and then the Pentax 6x7, which shoots a 6x7 negative. I'm glad I kind of saved that for the end because there's a lot to say about film photography. That's gonna take a video of its own. I think old tech really has a place in my heart and in a modern context by allowing us to really slow down, to really be intentional about our media consumption, to really be intentional about what we're creating. And is this still recording? Oh God, I get these panics of like, am I recording? Yes, I am. Okay. But I had a message there and there somewhere. Essentially, I'm a nerd and I really enjoy these things. I really enjoy old tech. I really enjoy slowing down and being very intentional about what I'm consuming, how I'm creating. And I think that these all could find a place into your workflow or not. You know, it's really up to you. All I'm saying is that it doesn't take much to kind of get into this world. There are arguments, and I absolutely agree, that shooting film is in and of itself a very expensive medium. That encouraged me to learn how to develop my own film, to scan my own negatives, and that's been a wonderful journey. This is what I've shot in 2024. And friends, when I tell you it's a lot, I am not joking. This is just full of negatives. And what I get to do next is organize all of this chaos. I've got a binder, I've got print file, archival things, and that's going to be a whole nother can of worms that I am going to have a lot of fun doing because I love to do nerdy shit. So thank you for being here. Thank you if you made it to the end of this video. I'm not always coherent. This is completely unscripted. I'm just trying to do things that interest me. Hopefully you're excited about it too, and that's why you found this video, and we can share our stoke and excitement for it together. So drop me a comment, hit me up and let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if there's other things you'd like me to cover. Let's have some community. Let's have some friendship. And until we see you again, so long for now. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.